Hello.
Hey everyone, welcome to True Crime Fridays, episode 5. Just got my papers here. Work. I know. Let's get into it right away. The last time we had our favorite attorney on, Attorney Cabellis, who came on and tried to help explain some of the legalese to us about grand juries and RICO things and whatever. And we're going to get into all that when we get more into the court cases that actually, the grand juries that actually took place and the court cases that actually took place with the harassment and things like that. Basic rundown real quick. Su Taraskiewicz, 27 years old, 1992, left work, never came back. They found her 2 days later in her trunk of her car, obviously deceased. We had been running through some of the things going on at the time. Credit card ring, really bad harassment because she was one of the first females in her job role type situation. And then we were kind of reviewing her relationships because I always say that's the first place, if I was an investigator, that I would look if someone was murdered. So we left off with talking about one of her two of her longer term kind of things that were happening at the time that kind of overlapped a little bit. And we're going to get into that now. Diane, do you want to do the quick disclaimer and then we'll get right into it?
And the last two relationships we talked about Fred, and we are today going to talk about John.
Mhm.
They weren't really long term. They were sort of
New. One was off and on for a little bit with the stuff with Fred, right?
Fred was sort of like maybe a dating here and there, light. I believe he called her his girlfriend, but I don't know that this was a real relationship. She has had the two relationships prior to him were long-term relationships. And then there was John, who was a newer relationship. They kind of overlapped with Fred. They were both members of the church, but Fred also worked at the airlines. And John was this new relationship that really had a lot of promise from what I'm told. And then also he allowed me to read one of their letters, and it was just, I have it, and I'm not going to share the details of the letter fully, but they had there was a lot of promise to this relationship and a lot of hope. So, and that was, that ended when obviously she died, and that's terrible. 27 years old. That's awful. So just a quick disclaimer, because we always want to do this. Quick note that we're discussing the 1992 murder of Susan Taraskiewicz. Information's presented. What do I call it? When I can't speak, what do I say? Lizzie. Lizzie from Charlestown always said Massachusetts strange. So we started saying that at some point.
Yeah.
So anytime I misspeak, just say Aunt Lizzie.
Yeah, Aunt Lizzie.
Put it in the comments. Aunt Lizzie from Charlestown. So we're just, all the stuff we're saying is from public records, reporting interviews, confidential informants, some not confidential informants, conversations. No one mentioned in our episodes, and no one has ever been charged in this case. There's been no convictions. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. We are not law enforcement. We are just walking through this investigative reporting. I'm an author. We're both nurses as well. I'm writing a book on this case with the help of, I'm writing it, but there's two law enforcement officers that are really involved in this case and have been working it on their own for years. One actually was an investigator on the case back when it happened, not right when it happened, shortly thereafterwards. He took over the case for a little while. That is that. So we are going to talk about John. So John,
Ma'am, put your headphones on.
Oh, my headphones. Where are they?
They fell.
All right, hang on.
I'm like, she didn't hear everything that I heard when she dropped her headphones and almost blew my ears out.
Oh my God. I'm like hitting my hair. All right, here we go. How did I forget the headphones?
I don't know.
All right, wait a minute. Hang on. Okay.
And we're back.
Okay, so we're talking about John, Fred we left off with. So then John knew Sue in the final months of her life. I believe they met at the Church of Christ that she was involved in, and John was also heavily involved in the church. I believe he met her 3 months before her passing. And they had been dating 6 weeks before her passing. But despite this short time together, her death had a profound effect on him.
Yeah.
I found John, it was interesting because I'm combing through, scouring Reddit threads and comments on videos that have been out there, the news, Sue's Mom Speaking, or shows, Unsolved Mysteries, all the whatever that shows they've done, and then podcasts, YouTube shows. So scouring all the comments, and then Reddit, I found this person that seemed to know a lot about this case, and then said his brother had dated her and said a couple of things, and I was like, oh wow. So I reached out, but it was many years ago. He posted this, like,
Yeah.
as a comment, and I reached out on there, and I didn't get anything back. And then I found him. I found so many people. I found him some other way, and through like 6 degrees of separation. I found him on Facebook through, because I knew who I was looking for, John's name. And again, some people's names will be changed to protect them. The people that have been named in public, we will name
Well, public court filings
public
anyway.
filings,
Yeah.
and court filings and articles and things like that. But then people who haven't been named, and John was gracious enough to say I could use his name, but I made the executive decision to, if you're not in a public filing, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Book might be different. 10 chapters in, but we'll see. Yeah. So found this guy again through 6 degrees of separation on Facebook, and it happens to be John's brother. And he reached out to John asking, I said who I was and what I'm doing, and would he like to talk? And initially he didn't want to talk. His brother said this case affected him profoundly.
Yeah.
He had some health issues, and he was also just like really, this was very overwhelming for him. He also had spoken to the police before, and John didn't state this to me. His brother did. Stated he was frustrated with the information that he was giving him, and the police were sort of doing their own thing with that. So he was very frustrated, and I could tell. I reached out to him. He emailed me declining, and then I spoke with him again, and he then graciously agreed to talk to me, which was great. And we had a great conversation, and he really humanized Sue. And it was, I was tearing up. It was really just so heartfelt, and I could just feel all the emotion and the what could have been.
Yeah.
Between them.
Right. It must be terrible to have to relive it every time someone wants to look into the case, or, same thing with her family, like we were saying.
And we spoke. He confided in me, that he's had relationships, but he had never married. And he saw in Sue, even though this was only 6 weeks, but he saw that he really, I said the words love of your life, and he hesitated for a minute. Almost like he wasn't sure he really thought of that. But then he kind of sort of agreed with it almost to a degree. Or I think when someone dies and you're in a relationship with that young age, and all of a sudden this hope and this future and all of this, and we discussed this, is just snuffed out and stopped. It's so hard to, like, when you're dating someone else, to live up to that, because they're aging, and then you always have this what could have been. So you can with the ghost of someone, that you really cared about, and all of this promise. And so it was really heartbreaking. And he was wonderful enough to show me, send me a letter between them. And on her famous, Sue always loved, as I've said before, Sue loves Snoopy and the Peanuts. And she wrote on Snoopy stationery. And in one of the letters, I was able to, I think I've read about 2 or 3 excerpts. This is a full letter, but she saved her Snoopy stationery for people that really, she said, I
Deserved it.
Yes. Yeah, she wrote that. And I have to say, in reading she's 27, a grown woman, but reading this letter, I felt, wow, the innocence of the time almost, or like it was so different. And just sharing her day, and
Having to write it in a letter. That's
just so it's just so different.
Yeah.
It's wild, really, reading a letter, and it seems so innocent into how, I know, we're old and bitter, but I mean, still, it was like, I don't know, it's just such a different time, and it's beautiful reading a letter. Actually, I enjoyed it. It was very heartfelt, and I appreciate that he did that. He also shared some pictures with me of the two of them, and he also stated that well, I'll get into when he actually went up and talked to the parents after she died.
Because he was living in Texas at the time.
Yeah, so they were dating, and John worked. I'm not sure what he did for a living. I apologize, and I think he told me, but I mean, it's neither here nor there. But he ended up. They're in the church together. He knew that she had dated Fred, and they had broken up. She told him,
Okay.
and there was some overlap there between some of her friends that have stated no, she did have maybe like another
That always happens
rendezvous
when you're
with him.
beating down, when you're
Yeah.
beating off.
Yeah.
Like, it's not uncommon.
As I said before, for John, Sue remains frozen in time, forever young, forever the person who she was when he last knew her. So he's left wondering what could have been. They met through the church, as I said. He was working for his father at the time, and they were going to Texas. He's not from here. He'd lived in Massachusetts for a while, but so he's going to move to Texas. Sue knows this. Sue had been to Texas. She was excited to possibly come visit him. She wanted to show him some special spots that she had been. And he's going to move to Houston. And I think he thought at some point maybe should move down. And there was some discussion of that a little bit at some point. Like
Well, things clearly weren't going well at work for, between the harassment.
yeah, like there was a little bit of talk, sometimes maybe a transfer. He clarified for me, because I heard, hearing different accounts, that one account said she resigned and she was going to transfer and all that. And he cleared that all up for me. They weren't there yet as far as that.
Yeah, it was only 6 weeks.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I moved pretty fast sometimes.
Yeah, no, 100%. But that's not shocking that it wasn't there yet.
Yeah, they weren't there yet, but he saw the relationship going this way. That was his head space about this, like the real deal.
And that
And
would make sense.
he absolutely saw himself asking her to marry him. So he gets the news that they're talking every day. They're just really, he leaves and it's
They're
really
not FaceTiming, because I know that's what you just wanted to say. Like, I would,
other face.
yeah, like they're FaceTiming every night now. But no, they're talking on landlines.
No, they're talking on the landlines every
Crazy.
day. And he said, which just seems awful, that they made a decision together. Look, we're talking way too much. Look, this is crazy. We need to have a couple of days in between. So they sort of made that decision together. And what happened, though, this was right at the time she's gonna get murdered.
Yeah.
So he didn't find out that she got murdered till about a week later. He didn't hear from her, and he was like, all right, we said we weren't going to talk. And then someone so the Church of Christ that they were involved in, there was different chapters, and there was one in Houston. And Sue even talked to sorry, not Fred, John.
Mhm.
If she did move down there, she would stay
With the
she would
church.
stay with some church girlfriends
Mhm.
there. And they were really practicing with John monogamy, staying before marriage, and all of that stuff. She
You
was
mean abstinence before marriage? Monog-
abstinence. Sorry.
I think you're supposed to be monogamous in a relationship.
Yes,
before
in a
marriage.
relationship. No. Abstinence before marriage that's what this Church of Christ really strongly.
Well, that's what Catholic. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what
Christian, Catholic, that's what they believe in. So that's what they were practicing. So he finds out through someone through the church a connection to up here that yes. So it's like, are you serious? I can't even believe that. He obviously wants to go to the funeral. He wants to run right up here and all that. His father, and this was such a hard part of this conversation.
And he's down there, right? His father's down there because he's working with his dad or
And with
whatever.
his dad, yeah.
Yep.
His father says, John, I don't think it's a good idea. Don't go. I don't know what the rationale behind that.
I understand it. It's your kid. It's somebody that he was dating. Everybody looks at the boyfriend. I know you have an alibi. You're in a different state, but it
and
seems
who knows
that
what's going on.
and maybe he knew some things that were going on at the,
get into that.
Yeah. So I don't, as a parent, I can see if you're going, I'm going with you. I'm standing next to you the whole time. Like I could
I think
understand that.
Unfortunately, I felt so for him because he said it was my biggest regret.
Yeah.
I wished I didn't listen. I wished I went.
Yeah.
And I went.
I understand that too.
He went about a month or two later, went up to her grave and saw all the friends and all at the church and gathered together. But that was his biggest regret.
Yeah.
He felt he should have been there. As a parent, like you just said, I would probably have advised my son the same thing.
Yeah.
And if I thought it would be one of his biggest regrets. No, but I feel bad about
Also,
that. But
this isn't somewhere where she just was crossing the street and got hit by a bus. This was a murder.
yeah,
Someone stuck
and y'all,
her in
and y'all
the
the
trunk of a, yeah, this
You're
is
the
no
guy.
joke. This
Yeah.
is a lot more serious than, if it was an accident or something like that.
No, I can see both sides to that.
I would want just him to, what if they would come to come after him, or who knows?
We don't, and this is a very suspicious murder. This is
what I'm
a
saying.
lot going on.
So as a parent, you just say, sorry, but I mean, you're 27, you can do whatever you want, but also, no.
Exactly. He described Sue when I talked. So this was really traumatic, obviously, for him and everybody, but this was obviously very traumatic. He said Sue was Catholic and became very, very, very involved in the church, very strong relationship with God. And that's been said multiple times. He described Sue, a lot of people, very strong-willed, very determined, very career-driven, very focused. He laughed and said he couldn't understand he'd say, why do you have to do these physical jobs? Like, why do you want to do these back-breaking jobs that why not work the ticket counter or something like that? And she, no.
Why not be a lady?
Yeah, and then he didn't mean it that way.
I know.
Like, he's going like kind of like, what do you do? What,
Yeah.
But she was really focused on no. And I sometimes think, and then talking to him about stuff that happened at the airport and like the harassment and others, and how a lot of people, I was thinking about this this morning, a lot of people didn't know the extent of the harassment, except the people that worked with her, really, her best friend that worked there too. I can see a woman like that, and I understand because I'm sort of this way too, very driven.
Saying to prove a point.
No one's taken me down.
Telling
like,
me
no
that
one's
I'm
doing that.
not gonna.
And I don't want to tell everyone what's happening because it makes me seem weak or something. And it's not. She's not weak.
No.
But it's I can handle this.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's two sides to me. But being from I think I have how I grew up. I have a lot of, and you do too. Street smarts. So I know if someone's real dangerous, I think you can't go to every fight you're invited to, but I can see the other side of me that's also like, this is bullshit.
There's a battle. There's an intense battle there.
that.
You're not going to cut off your nose to spite your face, but you're also not going to run away and look weak or be told you can't do something.
And I definitely could see myself not telling anyone
Anybody.
closest to me,
Yeah.
going, oh yeah, these guys are just picking on me at work and saying, and then I get a supervisor role, they're making me clean toilets, they're drawing naked.
You're not going to tell your father and your brother.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
No.
'Cause-
And a lot of people would. I can see myself in Sue in that regard.
Right.
Just thought about that this morning. So obviously he said, it's very, and she played, as we already know about Sue, she really utilized what she had in her career to what she could as far as grievances, reporting,
Right.
all of that. She really utilized that. And that's, we're never going to victim blame because she should have, but I think that also caused the anger escalated, the resentment escalated, the harassment escalated, because although the union and the airport probably should have been doing more about this, and there was liability found in this case through the Massachusetts Discrimination Commission, or I never get that right, but they didn't protect her in that regard. And they're probably getting annoyed by it. Who knows? I mean, it doesn't seem like they were really listening. So they probably wanted her to shut up to some degree.
And also, as you know, as a parent, when things go bad in school and someone's getting, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of target terms, but someone's getting bullied or whatnot, when you report it and when the parents get involved is when behind the scenes it gets much worse.
Exactly.
There's
Because now we have to do something. God, we have to figure something out.
all the people that are starting the trouble to begin with are like, are you kidding me? You went to this and
Yeah.
it gets worse.
It gets worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of those people were in the union representatives, but I'm sorry, they were all in the union.
Yeah.
But there was a bit higher ups in this.
Yeah.
Involved in the credit card rings and stuff. And so it's like, okay, this is not
You're fighting a losing battle essentially.
exactly.
Yeah, which is
Or
not right.
fanning the
but it
flames
sucks.
almost, which is terrible. And did she know that? Well, per John, a couple of things. So I obviously get into what did she tell you anything? What did you? Because they would go to the church and then the church would have picnics and events and all these things. And they would go and they would talk. And I asked, did you know about the harassment? And he did know some about the harassment, not in the detail that would come out. And probably because of what we just said. I don't know if Sue was telling everybody that.
People, yeah.
She did say that the men that were harassing her, she felt were sort of lower level muscle, like, and orders were coming from the higher up. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
So who's that? Well, we don't know, but he also said that I found incredibly interesting that they would get in her car and she would almost sort of not say the words. So he didn't want to put words into her mouth, but gesture, don't talk in the car. We can't talk in the car. And he did ask her what, like when they got out of the car, like, why can't you talk in the car? And she felt her car was bugged.
Wow. Okay.
So I was like, oh, okay.
That's pretty serious.
So I said, did she say who she thought was bugging the car? Because the only people that I would feel that are capable of bugging the car would be the feds. And I'm like, okay, so does that mean she was talking to the feds? So did she think it was the feds that were bugging her car? Because and Sue did not say that. Sue felt it was the union. And that was when she said, the muscle. I feel like the guys that are bothering me doing a lower level getting orders from higher up. So I felt that was really interesting, especially with lots of talk, lots of people I've spoken with, already clear as day, the union is not really protecting her and the women. And then many people I've spoken with that were employed there at the time had a lot to say about the union and how they were corrupt, for lack of a better word. Not, yes.
In this scenario.
And no one ever went to say the higher ups, like in the office of the union, but in the airport itself, the higher ups of like the union rep and that they were involved in a lot of shit and watched each other's back. Gave, as people's seniority is supposed to happen and people would get skipped over and the whole thing, the one hand washes the other, friends, all of that. There was a ton of that. The union was very well known through the people that I have spoke with as not being on the up and up at the airport. So I thought that was really interesting. And I'm going to circle back to that at the end. When John came up later on and did speak with police. And as I said, he was frustrated because he said he was frustrated also because he's giving them some information that he had, doesn't have a ton, but they were really fixated on a truck. Did he know who drove a truck? And I am told by my sources there was a white truck. There was reports that Sue was at like a church function, and then someone pulled up in a white truck, and she was absolutely terrified of this person. Like she talked to them and was absolutely terrified. So I really tried to find out who had a white truck. And the first thing I thought of, I said, did Fred have a white truck? And John actually went out with Fred one time. He met Fred at the church. He knew Sue had dated him. They broke up, is what he was told. He said Fred was an incredibly nice guy, he felt. And he said Fred even gave him some insight into Sue. So that's interesting. And they also went out, and he described, he said we went to some estate and whatever. And the way he described it, it seems like Crane's estate in Ipswich, where they took a ride they went to. And I said, did he drive a white truck? And he said, I don't remember. But in my research through a lot of notes and things that I have, Fred did not. Fred drove a black truck and had a black motorcycle. Okay. So we don't know who drove this white truck and who she was so afraid of. So that's interesting. I mean, in the police, he said, we're very fixated on the truck. He didn't say white truck. I'm telling you, he said truck.
Okay.
So
I found out it was a white.
I'm told from other sources that they were interested in a man in a white truck.
Okay.
I did find it interesting that I spoke with another person. One of the first people I spoke with in this case was involved in the credit card ring. And this person did time. He was
for the credit card ring?
The credit card ring.
Okay.
He was indicted with Nozo, who was one of the big players and looked to be the prime suspect. And his name appears the most, him and Brooks. And I reached out to him, and he has a pretty big job, this guy. And he said to me, he was very forthcoming. He was sort of taken aback when I called, but he had a lot to say. And he said, I'm very open. I served my time. He feels horrible about what happened to Sue.
He was young too.
He was
wasn't
very
he?
young. Reports have said when he spoke with law enforcement, he was doing the credit cards to feed a cocaine habit. I don't know if that could be hearsay, but he said he was young, he was foolish. This was like free money. Everyone was doing it. It was crazy.
We said
absolutely. He said it was Goodfellas gone wild. It was very interesting.
we said if someone approached us at that age,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, and I said I might not be doing it, but I'd probably be dating the guy that's getting all the money.
Well,
or something
exactly,
like
right.
that. I didn't have the best head on my shoulders,
Right.
but that's
that age anyway.
But he was so full. Well, some people do.
Okay, maybe not whoever.
He was very forthcoming, but he did say something I thought that was interesting. He said, and we do know this credit card ring was massive. It was very big, and we're going to get really into that. He said this was really disorganized crime, and he said that after I had said there was rumors that the way they got caught was maybe a cop was planted undercover in the operation, and he laughed that up when I brought that up because he said if a cop was planted in this operation, we would have been busted in one day because it was so obvious what we were doing. It was crazy. We were He goes, this was very disorganized crime. So I thought that was interesting, and I brought this up to John, and John's very intelligent, and John said, I don't know who said that to you, but I'd be very suspect of that person because this isn't disorganized crime. This is very organized crime. He said it might seem disorganized, but sometimes the few players that are organizing crimes sort of want you to think that. There's a sense, he goes, it might be decentralized crime, but it definitely has an organization component to it. And we did speak of that a little bit before, but I thought that was so profound, and he was so insightful about this. And I said, how do you know, like, this is what, and he says a ton of research on this kind of stuff. He's very into, not even just crime, just sort of dynamics of like mob mentality and things like that. He's very intelligent. So I thought that was really interesting because I think there's some truth to that. He did go and see Sue's parents too when he came up. And he said the dad was incredibly angry, as he should be. And by the end, though, they were all crying.
Yeah, obviously.
And Sue's mother gave him some pictures of Sue, and he actually asked if he mailed them, could I return them to the family? And the family has not spoken. I have not spoken.
Really, he wanted to give them back.
Yeah, I think he felt like he should give them back. And I didn't give him a mailing address yet to do that because I don't know if that's really my place. I have reached out to the family. I have not spoken to the family. Sean, one of the officers that I work with, has. But if, maybe me and John will speak at a later date and we can take it from there. So I did want to leave it with that. There's not much other than that in the future that they could have had. And when reading the letter, they really liked each other. They really were hopeful of this future together. In the letter, and I did think we spoke about this before, it was thought of that the parents disapproved of the Church of Christ.
Yeah.
And John did speak of that. Some people did disapprove of this church because they thought it might have been like cult-like and John really wasn't too keen on this either.
It was the recruiting.
They had to recruit.
Yeah.
That was one of the functions of the church. And so, and even in the pyramid thing. Not like Jehovah's Witnesses or something like that. There's a recruiting aspect, and the Mormons as well. And then he said, the mother didn't love it, but in the letter, she complained one time because Sue was outside praying at 4:30 in the morning. And the way I took this, and the way John took it in the letter, is the mother's disapproving of the church. And obviously, they've had more conversations than this, but I sort of took it as, what are you doing outside at 4:30 in the morning?
Correct.
Praying.
Correct. Yeah.
Interesting. And I wanted to just go back to the union, because that really stuck with me, with the bugging of the car, because that's pretty extreme, like you said.
Yeah.
We touched on this before, and then Attorney Cabellis that we had on about the 6 degrees of separation, and maybe the investigative grand jury might have been because of possible public corruption.
Yep.
And we're going to find in this case, there's a lot of people that maybe, there's some public figures that are involved, close to some of these people involved at the airport doing these things. So the union, I did bring up to someone that worked there about the union, asked a bunch of questions and all of that, what they thought. And interesting enough is there was a podcast, there was a show, and it's been said Marlene Sue's mother really had a problem because an officer came to the scene, a Revere police officer came to the scene and was In the show, it said open the trunk and found Sue.
Yeah, that's not the case.
I'm not sure about if he opened the trunk. And he was connected to someone at the airport. And she was very upset about that in this show. Now we have the bugging of the car,
Mhm.
the union calling the shots per what John's saying, Sue is thinking. And then the union rep, follow me here, the top dog at the airport, the highest level is the union rep. He's the brother of the cop that's opening the trunk of the car, or supposedly
Showed up at the scene.
showed up
either
at
one.
the scene.
Yeah.
And I found, and this is confirmed by one of the officers that I'm working with, and I found a photo, a very rare photo. He had not seen it. The other cop had not seen it.
Oh, yes.
An inside edition photo. There is a photo of this cop right leaning by the trunk, not open yet, of the car, face full frontal. And I said, is this who we think it is? Is this, what's his name? It's the brother
Of
the
union.
brother of the union rep at the airport.
Yeah.
And the union rep at the airport has since passed away. There's been tips that he had an addiction problem, he had a pill problem. I have not found that he was convicted of the credit card ring. I know he got fired. And
Union rep leader.
the union rep, and they were thick as thieves, I'm told, him and these two other guys underneath him. A lot of people had not nice things to say about him. I don't know about harassment, but he did get fired right shortly thereafter, like a lot of people did with the credit card ring. A lot of people got fired but didn't get charged.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say a lot, some.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I can't find that he was charged, but he was the brother of the cop that was on scene, pictured by the trunk. So we're going to find some of this in this story that I find incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
So-
Worthy of mention, like I like to say.
I'm trying not to say of note anymore. So
We're going to leave it there.
we're going to leave it there, and then
Where are we going to pick up on episode?
I don't know.
7.
Yeah. So episode 7, I think we'll get into the church. There's not a ton to say about the church, but I do have some witnesses that have spoken and stuff. We can get a little bit of what they have said about Sue, and a little bit of relationships and things like that. We'll talk about that if we have time. I would like to get into some of the tips that have come in. Well, there's lots of tips that have over the years come into this case, and I know some of them, and tips that I've received. There's 2 guys comes up a lot. We're going to have a whole episode on 2 guys, because this
Okay.
story comes up a lot. And I think that's it. So let's close it up. Do you like and subscribe, and
Yep. It's my turn. This is my turn to shine. Like and subscribe. Please go on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, not formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, all of those places. Viewer engagement is super important. Please like and subscribe. Please comment. Please share. In the show notes, there's ways to support the show, as Diane said. If you could please, if you want to continue listening, if you could please engage with us in some form, that would be great. We have a giveaway, a $25 giveaway.
once a month, we're going to give a Dunks gift card giveaway for new subscribers.
Right now it's Dunks. Maybe someday it'll change to something else, but we're going to do a giveaway to new subscribers. If you watch an episode, you like it, and you subscribe, we will do a random drawing once a month. We will go live to announce the winner. We've already did one for last month. And come see us on Tuesdays for our regular Wicked Honest.
Wacky Wicked Honest Tuesday.
Wacky Wicked Honest Tuesdays, yeah. And then again on Fridays for the next episode of True Crime.
Yeah, and justice for Sue. The more we get going out there, the more we have on YouTube, that engagement and all this. Hopefully we can get more word out. Let's talk about this. Ask questions. We're happy to answer. Let us know what you think, okay?
So cheers to and staying alive. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.